Inner child, healing your trauma, parts work, codependency, self-compassion, self-love. All of these things I'm realizing are just so inextricably linked. And as I continue this journey of learning how to heal clients and also learning how to heal myself through my complex PTSD journey, I'm going to share with you guys my little toolkit of my favorite ways to truly look at these issues and to truly unravel them. I believe in it, I trust it, and I hope you guys enjoy. So just a brief explanation of how trauma can get stuck in the body. In old time frames, we get regressed when something happens at a young age and it's not processed by the family and it's not talked about, technically freezes. It's unprocessed energy that had no way to truly integrate. And so you could be, a 30, 50, 60-year-old person, and when something triggers you, you can regress back to that same age. We can call these parts of ourselves. So that's why we go about our day and there are these triggers, and suddenly this ancient mechanism of our conditioning allows this part to come online. That's why we wonder wow, why do I act like such a small child in relationships when I feel like I've come so far or I've matured or whatever. It's that we still have parts that maybe along our healing journey we haven't yet touched on, we haven't yet helped go to the past and kind of unfreeze these old emotions locked in time. The inner child really is the key to unlocking. Why? Because the inner child was who experienced it, from 0 to 18 is when the majority of that childhood trauma locks in and is that's when you're the most vulnerable, the most open-hearted and spiritually, just innocent. And that's when it can really hit. That inner child for me represents the heart, represents the desire to love, that vulnerable part of you that was intact and unwounded. And yes, they are burdened, they're holding trauma, but when we unlock that burdening, when we allow them to express and process these feelings, or help them in any other ways, like the ways I'm going to show you in this video, what can happen is we start releasing the potential. Those inner parts of ourselves truly get to be who they were before the trauma got placed on them. Attachment wounding is a big thing that I've been focusing on recently. I've had tons of attachment trauma, and essentially attachment is what the systems that you came in, hardwired into your being to connect. And then the way we were met by our caregivers, whether not so well or well, we solidified that attachment system, either attaching, safely and securely to all of our caregivers, or, like the majority of people had an unsuccessful attachment. And so we then kind of spend our lives relating to people through these attachment systems. So that could be more avoidant or more anxiously attached. You could be both too, and depending on, whatever gender you're interacting with, you could have different styles of relating. I'm more anxiously attached to men, and I'm more avoidant with a certain type of woman. What happens, and why does this attach to codependency? Well, when our inner children are wounded and we don't know how to work with them, what can happen is that through friendships or through our parents or our children or our relationships, what we can do is we can try and give them our inner children, our wounded inner children, and all of this happens subconsciously. We give it to them and we're like, okay, you heal it. And even with all of this stuff I know, I so fall victim to this. I absolutely do not know how to meet a lot of my early attachment needs. And I believe in interdependence, but sometimes that umbrella of interdependence can cover a deep-rooted codependency that's actually looking for parents and people to really provide the nourishment or soothing or encouragement or cheerleading or whatever it is, all of those needs that the child had. So in this video, I want to give you some tips to take responsibility and take care of your own trauma, your own attachment wounds, your own healing the inner child, so that your partner or anybody else around you, they don't have to. Because it is our responsibility, and it's not fair to expect anybody or anyone else to do this work for you. However, seeking support from people specifically to help you heal is actually part of one of my tips that I'll get into later. But it is a good thing to have support systems in place. You don't have to do this alone. It's just we don't want this to be untreated and your inner child to be kicking and screaming and abandoned. And then through all of the relationships in your life, that is kind of trying to work itself out. Because here's the thing, these patterns will work themselves out no matter what. They're going to be placed on people all of the time. This is the way that I'm discovering and that I'm learning to truly fill my own cup, so that I'm not seeking validation. I'm not seeking that need to be seen from the outside. I am working directly with my inner self. So the first category is reparenting. To become the good protective mother, but also to be the masculine father that gets things done, that seeks the positive, that looks for solutions. The mother that nourishes and soothes and says sweet words. And of course, this is stereotypical, but you create your own inner parent that is giving you what you were lacking in your own life. A good way to do this is see like what you give to other people all the time. For example, I'm always making people feel very, very safe, very validated, very seen, very listened to. That gives me the clue that those are the things I so desperately need in myself. So one tip in reparenting that I like to do is to ask myself, especially in regards to my nervous system. So basically throughout our day, we basically go through a place where we're open and feel safe and feel connected, to more of a fight or flight, to then more of a freeze where you kind of just lock in and don't really know what to do and just shut down. We can go through all of these states all day. And usually, with small children, they don't really know how to regulate their own nervous system. They look at parents. That's how they regulate. They literally regulate through the nervous system of a parent. And in sessions, part of my work is to stay in that open, connected place so that clients can feel and attune to that state in my nervous system. So it is my responsibility to take care of it. A good question I ask myself is, what does my nervous system need right now? If I feel really, really activated, well, maybe I need some grounding. Maybe I need to express and move this energy. If I'm really shut down, maybe I need some movement, something that's going to enliven me or bring me back to life. Or I just need a sense of safety, or that there's good in the world. Another thing to consider with reparenting is moderation. So if you notice that you kind of go in extremes, whether that be with your bad habits or with the way that you show up in the world, the way, there's millions of ways that we can not moderate ourselves. And so that is the job of a parent, is to teach the child how to show up in a way to seek the middle ground. Healthy boundaries, which is a huge one, which is to know, am I in a situation that's really negative right now? How can I put myself in a safe place? Or on less extreme levels, when am I saying yes when I want to say no? When am I, choosing things that I really, really, really do not want to do? Who am I interacting with that doesn't suit me? And all these kinds of things. It's almost like I always see the reparenting as like the manager, the one that is like doing your schedule. It's the one like behind the scenes. But it needs to be mentioned. But in trauma work, we can do all of these heavy processes, and then we're not actually doing all the behind the scenes that takes to run an adult. And it is our job to do that. You basically want to caretake yourself and make sure that on the spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical spectrum, you are covering your needs. If you have bad mental health, well, then the reparenting needs to focus on that. If spiritually you feel completely disconnected, then you need to start implementing or researching spiritual practices. If you're not physically taking care of yourself, if you don't, take care of your body or of your space, like organizing and cleaning, even mentally, sometimes bringing in positive thoughts instead of just always being in the negative. That can be a really awesome reparenting thing to do. This reparenting provides that structure of stability and trust and safety that your inner child needs to thrive. Your inner child's not going to feel safe if you don't have all of these bases covered, and that's why this is number one on my list, because we can this is the time to take a little inventory and say, where am I really just totally not parenting myself at all, to the point where I would need an intervention. I need to seek somebody else to do this for me, or it's just completely lacking in my life. It's just time to get honest with yourself and know where you can stretch and become that parent. Number 2 is self-compassion. This is kind of the hardest thing for me to do, because I always feel like, because I'm one person and I'm singly focused, it's really hard for me to relate to myself. It's hard because I am very visual. I seek other people, I look at other people, and I project. And so part of self-compassion, how I really brought this into my life, was I had to really imagine that I could see myself on the outside. This is just a helpful tool that I found, to see myself so that I could imagine Laura, and how would I really treat Laura if I wasn't just this one-dimensional, like looking out of my eyes, projecting onto the world creature, but if I could really, really see myself from this outside perspective. One of the ways I show myself self-compassion, and I've been trying to do this every day because I'm really working on healing this attachment trauma, is to speak to myself. I really speak to myself, and I try and do this every single day, and I do this at bedtime because it's just a really good way to remind myself. And you have to remember, the body and like the ears, they can't tell the difference between you saying these words to yourself or somebody else saying them. And for somebody who's codependent like me, who's seeking that validation from the outside, I love hearing those words from a lover or a parent, any admiration, any solidifying of who I feel like I am, and you're like validating that. But no, I need to do that for myself. So what I can say is, in a soft and soothing voice, I will go over my day or the things that I'm worried about, and I'll say, oh honey, you did the best that you could, or you're doing such a good job. Really, you want to look at what you want someone else to be saying to you. It could look like, I love you so much, and I know that this is really, really hard, and I'm here for you, and I'm going to support you, and I think you're so beautiful, and I think that you are so brave and courageous. Just anything that you would really love a parent to say to you. This also looks like not being hard on yourself. I'm super, super hard on myself, and I hold myself to like this gold standard of impossibility. I have really strict rules for myself, and all of that can be damaging to the soul. It's good to have integrity and values and morals, but I noticed that I just kind of wrap it in this, like, what I'm allowed to do versus not allowed to do. And so I'm judging myself. And what can happen when you become aware of your inner critic and your inner judger is that you end up judging the judger. And I don't want that to happen to you. Do not make the same mistake. So we accept the inner judgment. We understand why we're so hard on ourselves. We had to be hard. We needed to survive. But when can you notice that you are really, really just holding this standard, perfectionism, or things that you would never hold someone else to? It's like I give everybody permission, and I leave everybody with this space of like, oh, whatever you are, however you come is good enough for me. But however I come is no, like that's not allowed. That's not allowed. And so noticing when I'm being too hard on myself. I think that's one of the things I remember hearing so often growing up was, Laura, you're being so hard on yourself. So if you're someone like me who's heard that so often, this could really pertain to you. And it all starts with noticing when you're judging yourself in a way that you would never judge another human being, or again, holding yourself to this impossible standard. I invite you to look at Rick Hanson's work, which is really about imagining the people that you love and have them, that compassionate energy, and fill your body up, and you can see, even now, you might even imagine somebody that you love so deeply, and you can feel that warmth in your heart. And then imagine yourself and give yourself that energy. That's what self-compassion means to me. This looks like letting yourself off of the hook. This looks like inner kindness, and this looks like being soft with yourself. A mantra that I like to use is the "it's okay" mantra. It's okay. It's okay. This validates whatever is arising, whatever is coming up, it validates that. My favorite tool in the self-compassion theme is the I love you tool. I say this to myself every night. Whether or not I believe it, I love you. I say this out loud. I love you. I love you. And if you do it enough times, what you'll start to see is you'll either see how it feels cringy or awkward. I don't have coronavirus, I swear. Or it can start to feel like what I'm generating is this like deep warmth. And I can even notice how my body, it's kind of hard to receive. That is the codependency, because codependency is so much about saying we want intimacy and we want love and all those things that we're seeking outside. But when they really show up and they really come, how can we really show up to that? Doing the I love yous has really showed me that when I generate that warmth, it is difficult for me to take in, but bit by bit, day by day, I'm allowing a little bit more to enter. I'm breathing in a little bit more, because the more I do this, the more this love really generates in your cells, body, and system, the more you truly will fill your own cup. You truly will believe that you're deserving of love, because you will have had the experience, the true, visceral, somatic experience of what inner love looks like. Because when somebody shows up and tells you all of the things that you never believed about yourself, and they're reflecting that back to you, you're not going to take it in. You're not going to take it in unless you've done this work to truly soften those edges and that armor that is actually pushing up against love that can be largely subconscious. My third way of working with the inner child is expression. So this can look like going about your day, especially if you feel like there are feelings that are pent up, your inner parts are grappling with something, to have something that's unprocessed, have something that is old and you can kind of feel it coming up to the surface. I'm sure many of you are in that place and you're having synchronicities and you know it's time to come up. Well, what you can do with expression is basically give yourself the tools to find an outlet. So that can look like any of the expressive arts. So that can look like art, that can look like journaling, that can look like movement. You can do it through music, you can do it through poetry. One of the ways this manifested in me is that just like a child coming back from school, it waits until it sees an adult to start going, oh, mommy, 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 this is what happened, and this is what happened, and this is what happened, right? You're kind of, if you ever are a person who like rants like me to anybody who will listen to me, it kind of means that you are needing to express and you're waiting until you see another human. And it's very normal. It's okay. But how can we learn to express and get that energy out within ourselves? So I realized, oh, I'm waiting for an adult to let all of this stuff out. Let me try different tools and see what works. So my favorites have been to really speak it out loud. I'll let my concerns, my confessions, my deepest worries, my, just deepest fears, all of the things that I usually wait for someone else to soothe in me, I actually just let them out myself. It's almost like my mini little confessional booth. And at times, and many of you might find this when working with the inner child, you will feel like you are a child and you're working with an inner child, and it will feel like you can't. Like, I can't work with this because I'm also feel small. That's okay. That just means you're really blended. And what helps me in this is to imagine a higher power, God, anything that connects you with that sense of, not power over you, but that sense of capability, whatever it is. And for me, universal love energy has that capability. And so what I'll do is I'll actually speak to it. So this could look like prayer, but really it's just my way of getting all of those things that are worrying me, that junk, that stuff that needs an ear. I say it out loud to that energy so that I'm not waiting for other people to become my outlets. Okay, so I'm going to give you two tools, one that's somatic and one that's more visual, but they both for me equally work really, really well. And I want you to use this if you feel specifically like there's an attachment wounding or an inner child moment where this past pain is really surfacing, because this is going to help you integrate it, right? It's not just emoting, we want some other pieces in there too. If you don't know how to connect and you kind of feel more of like just that zombie, like disconnected, I want you to watch my video on how to feel your pain and do shadow work, because that really is about kind of going inward. But just if something's already coming up, if something's already bubbling up, how do we work with the inner child? So the first thing that I want you to do somatically is to just feel it in your heart. I am just this like starseed heart energy person. I feel like that is my main mission on this earth, is to live through the heart. And so you want to feel what that pain really feels like in your heart center. It really helps to place your hand over your heart and let the pain come up. Give yourself permission to feel this. You might feel like you want to pull away, but if you're really in this pain, let it come. And the second half of this somatic experience that you can do is then you want to feel through your hand, what is good in this hand? Does it feel like warmth? Does it feel like presence? Whatever you're feeling that's positive in your hand, what you can start to do is breathe it in. You want this to happen after the expression. You don't want it to happen too soon, but just when you feel like that expression, that wave is starting to come down, breathe in whatever is good, because that's what is needed. That's what this heart, that's what this inner child is craving. And so you're providing an experience somatically to breathe it in through the hand and to let your cells drink it up and really embody it. My second tip is, this just happened to me the other day. I'll give you an example. So my attachment wounding is coming up in a really, really big way. And there's two inner child parts that come up with my attachment wounding. One of them is, the part of me that's been abandoned. She looks like she has no organs, just this hollow, empty hole that is trying to gain, to fill that hole from the outside, right? She's starving, she's hungry. And the second one is the one I worked on just a few days ago, and I call her baby monkey. So for her, she's like, well, I don't have anybody to attach to. There's nobody safe. And it's not so much about filling a hole as much as it is to attach to a caregiver, to just have the physical touch and to say, you are safe and secure, and I can latch onto you. I was just feeling tons of pain. I didn't really know what inner child this was yet. So the first step to this is to visualize. If this pain, if this feeling had an image, what would it be? Boom, I got baby monkey, right? So that is already giving you an external vision of what this child can look like, and you have access now. Now you are able to relate to it and gain a little bit more insight as to what is coming up. I knew who she was, so I just let her express and express and express this really ancient old pain. I let her wail. I let the noises came up. I clutched at my bed and I screamed and I cried just to have somebody to attach to. And then when that started to settle a little bit, I started to imagine, or ask her even, what does she need in this moment? And then came somebody that I really believed in. So I brought in a spiritual teacher and I let her attach. And what happened? I could feel the soothing. I could breathe this person in. I could feel that I was no longer seeking, that attachment. And I let myself breathe that in for at least 20 minutes. It just felt so good. And more tears might come because you're releasing the pain of never having had that, of this child not getting that. And then what ended up happening, as I checked back in a few days later, I could just ask myself, let me see this baby monkey part. And she was still there, soothed and attached and breathing slowly. As you can see, a really big piece is the expression and then the integration and meeting the unmet need. So whether you want to do that just through the heart or through a sensation in your body, or whether you want to visualize it, both of those are my favorite techniques. They are foolproof. I use them so many times. And so I hope everything I've given you kind of encapsulates, gives you a starting point of what to do with yourself, how to fill your own cup, how to really generate this like self-love that everybody talks about, that nobody really knows what it is, so that you can start healing your inner attachment system and not seeking all of this validation from outside sources. I hope your inner children benefit from this. I hope that you feel more love and feel that tenderness that I was talking about earlier, and sending you from my inner heart, from my inner child, love to yours. Have a beautiful day.